Your baby reaches for the stranger at the grocery store, smiles, leans in, wants to be held. Then you reach out, and your baby pulls away, turns their face, reaches back toward the person they met 6 seconds ago. Every parent who experiences this feels the same thing: confusion, a little hurt, maybe some embarrassment, and then later, alone, a question that keeps circling back. Is something wrong? Here's what most people will tell you. Babies are just like that sometimes. They're curious, they're social, it doesn't mean anything. Don't overthink it. That advice sounds comforting, and for many babies, it's completely accurate. But for some, what looks like friendliness is actually a signal. And the difference between normal social curiosity and something else comes down to a pattern most parents don't know to look for. Let's start with what's supposed to happen. In the first 6 weeks of life, babies don't prefer anyone. They'll accept care from whoever shows up. Around 2 to 4 months, something shifts. The baby starts recognizing faces, tracking voices, responding differently to the person who feeds them, holds them, shows up in the middle of the night. By 5 months, research shows most infants clearly prefer their primary caregiver over strangers. And between 6 and 9 months, that preference becomes unmistakable. This is when stranger anxiety kicks in. The baby who smiled at everyone suddenly clings to you in public, cries when someone unfamiliar reaches for them, checks back to make sure you're still there before they explore a new room. Developmental psychologists call this healthy. It means the baby has learned to differentiate. They know who their person is. They've built trust with someone specific. That wariness of strangers isn't fear. It's attachment working exactly as it should. But some babies never develop that wariness. They smile at everyone with equal enthusiasm, show no preference between their mother and the cashier at the store, don't check back when a stranger picks them up, don't protest when their caregiver leaves the room. To an outsider, this baby seems easygoing, confident, socially advanced even. Developmental researchers see something else entirely. In the 1970s, psychologist Mary Ainsworth created an experiment called the strange situation. The setup was simple. A mother and baby enter an unfamiliar room. The baby plays. A stranger enters. The mother leaves. The stranger tries to comfort the baby. The mother returns. Researchers observed thousands of these interactions and identified distinct patterns in how babies responded. Most showed what Ainsworth called secure attachment. They explored the room while mom was present, got distressed when she left, and lit up when she returned. That's the blueprint. But one pattern stood out as deeply unusual. Some babies showed no distress when the mother left, didn't care when she returned, treated the stranger and the mother exactly the same. No preference, no differentiation, no visible attachment to either one. Ainsworth called this insecure avoidant attachment. And here's what makes it so unsettling. When researchers measured the physiological stress response in these babies, their heart rates spiked just as high as securely attached babies when the mother left. They were experiencing the same internal distress. They just weren't showing it. Somewhere in the first months of life, these babies had learned that expressing their needs didn't bring comfort, so they stopped expressing them. They deactivated their attachment system and started treating everyone like a stranger because no one had proven themselves safe. That's not confidence. That's a nervous system that's already learned not to expect help. And what happens next depends entirely on whether anyone notices. Now, here's what most people miss. Insecure avoidant attachment isn't rare. Studies estimate it shows up in roughly 20% of infants in stable home environments. And in many cases, it goes completely unnoticed because the baby isn't causing problems. They're not screaming, not clinging, not demanding anything. They've adapted by asking for nothing at all. But there's a more extreme version of this pattern that developmental psychologists have been tracking for decades. It's called disinhibited social engagement disorder. And if insecure avoidant attachment is a baby who's learned not to expect help from anyone, this is a baby who's learned to seek connection from everyone equally because no one specific has proven reliable. Children with this disorder walk up to strangers in stores and hug them. They'll leave with someone they've never met without hesitation. They don't check back with their caregiver before wandering off. And here's the part that makes parents uncomfortable. These children often seem happy, outgoing, socially fearless. until you realize what's actually missing. Brain imaging studies on children with disinhibited social engagement disorder revealed something unsettling. Their brains struggled to distinguish between faces that look trustworthy and faces that look threatening. The neural circuitry that should flag danger in unfamiliar people never developed properly, not because the hardware is broken, but because the software was never installed. You need consistent, responsive caregiving in the first 2 years of life to learn who is safe and who isn't. Without that foundation, everyone registers the same. This disorder shows up most often in children who've spent time in institutional care, moved between foster homes, or experienced severe neglect. But researchers have found cases in children with seemingly secure attachments whose early care was disrupted in ways that weren't obvious from the outside. The disorder persists. Even with stable care later, even into adolescence, the indiscriminate friendliness remains. So, what do you actually look for? A baby who smiles equally at their parent and a stranger isn't automatically concerning. But watch what happens during separation. Does the baby protest when you leave? Do they light up when you return? Do they seek you out specifically when they're hurt or scared? Those responses matter more than the smiling. Temperament plays a role too. Some babies are naturally more sociable. Twin studies show genetics influence how intensely a baby reacts to strangers. Cultural context shifts expectations entirely. In some cultures, children are raised communally, and wariness of strangers would be counterproductive. But if your baby shows no preference for you over anyone else by 9 months, if they don't check back to see if you're watching when they explore, if separation doesn't faze them and reunion doesn't register, that's worth mentioning to a pediatrician. Not because something is definitely wrong, because early intervention, if needed, works best when the brain is still building its attachment circuitry. The research is clear on one point. Attachment isn't destiny. A poor start can be repaired with stable relationships later. Therapy works, mentorship works, consistent care works. The system isn't fragile, it's adaptive. Babies are wired to form attachments. They just need someone to attach to who shows up reliably. So, the next time you see a baby who seems unusually comfortable with strangers, remember what you're actually looking at. You're watching a nervous system make predictions about the world based on everything it's experienced so far. And sometimes, what looks like confidence is actually a child who's learned that everyone is equally unreliable, which means no one is worth the risk of hoping for more. If you've watched your baby reach for a stranger and felt that small, sharp confusion, you now know what you're actually seeing. Not rejection, not randomness, a developing attachment system doing exactly what early experience has taught it to do. The difference between a socially curious baby and one signaling something deeper comes down to patterns you can now recognize. And if something feels off, trust that instinct. You're the most calibrated instrument in the world for reading your own child because you've been watching them since the first hour they arrived.